Galectin Therapeutics is focused primarily on fibrosis and treating fibrosis. We have found that the galectin-3 protein is a critical protein in the development of fibrosis in multiple organs: liver, lung, kidney, heart. But we're focused primarily on liver fibrosis, and our development program is liver fibrosis associated with NASH, with fatty liver disease. NASH, as you know, is a huge area of interest now because there are so many people in the world with fatty liver disease. And it's estimated that there are up to 30 million people in the United States alone with NASH. And NASH is a chronic disease that develops over time, and they're pretty much asymptomatic. And the underlying reason why people with NASH have problems is that they develop fibrosis or scarring of the liver. And that develops gradually over time until they get severe scarring called cirrhosis, and that's when they have complications of cirrhosis and they may need a liver transplant. Well, this is an asymptomatic disease that lasts for a long time until they have complications, as you all know. We are focused on the later stages of NASH, those patients that have advanced fibrosis or cirrhosis. So our phase 1 clinical trial was with an agent called GRMDO2, which is an inhibitor of galectin-3. And that inhibitor we showed in many preclinical studies not only prevented fibrosis but reversed fibrosis in a number of models. So we studied in phase 1 patients with stage 3 NASH, which is advanced bridging fibrosis. And we showed that it was safe and that the doses that we were using targeted the therapeutic range that we wanted. But we also looked at a bunch of biomarkers, and we showed that a particular fibrosis biomarker called Fibrotest was reduced by in a dose-dependent fashion. And also, the component of that test, alpha-2 macroglobulin, was markedly decreased. And finally, we looked at FibroScan, which, as you know, is a measure of the stiffness of the liver, was also decreased by treatment with the drug. So the phase 1 clinical trial was very promising, was safe. We had doses that we wanted to get, and it showed some potential effect on fibrosis. That formed the basis. The preclinical work, the phase 1 clinical trial formed the basis for a phase 2 clinical program. And so we currently have 2 phase 2 clinical trials ongoing. One in patients with advanced fibrosis, stage 3, but not cirrhosis, and a second larger clinical trial in patients with NASH cirrhosis. So we've started both of those clinical trials over the summer, and we're progressing those. The NASH FX trial, which is in advanced fibrosis but not cirrhosis, will be completed with top-line data at the end of next summer. And so we hope to have a late-breaking abstract for the liver meetings next year. And the cirrhosis trial is a longer, larger clinical trial. That will have data at the end of 2017. Right now, there are no drugs that that have been approved for use in NASH, and certainly not fibrosis or cirrhosis for reversing the cirrhosis. It's a very active area of research, and so there are multiple companies and academic centers that are examining various types of agents. In the area that we're focused on, which is NASH with advanced fibrosis and cirrhosis, the other competitor in the area is Gilead Sciences, which has a drug, a monoclonal antibody called simtuzumab, which is also in phase 2 clinical trials. Although there are lots of companies working in NASH, there's just Galectin Therapeutics and Gilead in this later stage disease. There are none approved. There are now a lot being worked on. There's not so many in this late stage, but I think it has to do with recognition of the disease, recognition of how serious the disease can be. For instance, we think that the number one reason for liver transplant is going to be NASH and fatty liver disease in the near future. I think that this disease a little bit snuck up on the entire medical community as how severe it is. Why is there a greater incidence now? Increasing levels of obesity, diabetes, etc., which drives the NASH. We are carefully focused on completing these phase 2 clinical trials. With completion of these phase 2 clinical trials and success, we will be positioned to begin to do registration trials and look to get this on the market for patients with advanced fibrosis and cirrhosis. And we are 100% focused on that goal, because we think that it's a huge unmet medical need, and any drug that can reverse fibrosis will be a welcome addition to medicine in general.